Hello and welcome to another webinar series by USB Certification. Today we are going to go over the regulatory landscape and share the important updates for brands and retailers. And also indirectly, it will affect manufacturers, suppliers, and distributors. I'll be your host for today, Ali Ertuğrul. I'm the technical and quality manager for USB certification. And I'm an environmental engineer myself and been in the sustainability sector for more than 9 years. Today, the presentation slides and video recording of this webinar will be shared following the end of this webinar with all registered participants. And if you have any questions or queries, you can reach out to us at info@usbcertification.com for questions. USB certification is carrying out its activities as a leading certification body in the countries. It is providing service for sustainable and recycling textile standards. USB certification with IAS accreditation is among pioneering and leading organizations in textile exchange programs and GOTS program in the world market. Today's agenda will cover extended producer responsibility for packaging from UK, the French EcoScore or Code Environmental from France, Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, or simply known as ESPR for European Union, and the Accurate Recycling Labels, also known as California Senate Bill 343 from the state of California in the United States. Let's start with extended producer responsibility for packaging in UK. This initiative is spearheaded by the government institution PAC UK, and our updates are related to disposable fee modulation. We'll be providing some background information and we'll share the updates related to this regulation. So the affected parties are UK organizations that import or supply packaging in UK. And we have to start with the definition of packaging. It is any material that is used to cover or protect goods that are supplied. It makes handling and delivering goods easier and safer. So under this regulation, the packaging activities are summarized as supplying packaged goods to UK markets under one's own brand, or placing goods into packaging, importing products in packaging, or owning an online marketplace that has packaged products, hiring or loaning out reusable packaging, or even supplying the empty packaging. So we have to look at the definitions of large and small producers in this case. So a large producer is defined as any individual business or a holding or conglomerate with its subsidiaries, excluding the charities. It has to have at least 1 million of turnover in the last fiscal year, and fiscal year meaning the accounts up to April 7. And it has to be importing or supplying more than 25 tons of packaging in the UK market in the previous calendar year, or carrying out any of the packaging activities. So the first action that is demanded from large producers is to collect and report packaging data for that given year. The reporting activities include the activity data, which means that the processes such as packing or filling or importing. The second data is the type data, which means is it household or non-household packaging. There's the class data, which is categorized as the primary, secondary, tertiary, or shipment data. And last one is the material and weight data. There's also information related to the recyclability of the product itself, which is based on a methodology called RAM, which is the recyclability assessment method. Small producers has an annual turnover of more than 1 million and up to 2 million and supplies more than 25 tons of packaging in the UK, or it has more than 1 million and supplies between 25 and 50 tons of packaging in the UK. And reporting for small producers are excluding the type data, so they only have to submit activity data, class data, and material weight data. So the actions for all producers, they have to collect and report data on the packaging to the relevant regulatory body. They have to pay a waste management fee, also known as the disposal fee. And there are additional costs such as the scheme administrator cost and other charges that are paid to environmental regulators. They have to get packaging waste recycling notes or packaging waste export recycling notes to meet the recycling obligations. And they also have to provide information on nation data, which means that in which nation, which part of the UK, that the packaging will be discarded in. So PRN or PERN is evidence that packaging waste has been recycled, just as a definition. So depending on the type of companies that you have, you can choose between three types. You can, if you have more than one company, you can do the accounting and reporting on behalf of each subsidiary as a parent group, parent company. Or your subsidiaries can report this data on packaging independently, or you can mix it up and your parent company can report on behalf of certain companies in your group, and other subsidiaries can choose to report for themselves. And data submission, as we said, it has to include the activity data, packaging type, which is household or non-household, and class information, primary, secondary, shipment, or tertiary, and material and weight. The recyclability assessment methodology starts in January 1st, 2025. So if you're a producer that supplies household packaging, you must assess the recyclability of your packaging and report the results to the environmental regulator. You can see a link to the methodology itself at the bottom of the slide. So when you receive the slides to this webinar, you can take a look at the specifics of the method itself. And there will be different kinds of ratings. It will be red, amber, or green, and this will affect the rate of fee that you'll be charged as a producer, and it's called fee modulation. And this is from red to green, red being the least recyclable and green being the most recyclable. And data you collect and report in this year will determine the disposable fees that you'll pay in 2025, which is also called waste management fees. Waste disposable fees only need to be paid for packaging that is classed as household, commonly bin packaging. So primary packaging and shipment packaging are considered household packaging, and this is what's used to contain the primary packaging is what's used to contain a single sales unit to sell the customer. So in this case, the packaging that you use for your individual clothing items, as textiles will be part of that. And shipment packaging is, of course, anything that you use to deliver the goods to consumer, including cardboard boxes, bubble wrap, and mail bags, of course. So the recent update is that in June 2025, the base fees for the year of 2025 to 2026 were released by PAC UK. So just to give you an example, the fiber-based composites will be 461 pounds per ton, and plastics will be 423 pounds per ton. How the producers will be invoiced is yet to determine, and PAC UK will notify the public in October of this year. And in the next years, the year 2 of EPR, which spans from 2026 to 2027, fees will be modulated to drive a shift to drive the market towards a more sustainable packaging, starting with the design and also including the recyclability as a factor. And depending on the type of packaging, it will determine if the fees that you'll pay will be high or low. And also it will be based on the recyclability assessment methodology that we discussed before. So having said that, I'll transition to French EcoScore, or officially known as the environmental cost. And there are some updates for apparel and footwear. As you can see, the graphics on screen, it's going to be this EcoScore will be a number that will be displayed for clients on the products itself. So it's going to be consumer facing. The French EcoScore, it's an environmental impact labeling system, and it wants to ensure that consumers understand the ecological impact of a product and they can choose accordingly. And there will be a graded environmental scorecard from A to E. And if you look at the regulatory timeline of the EcoScore, we'll see that last year in April, there was a public consultation phase where the French government engaged with the industry, NGOs, consumer groups, and other groups to draft a methodology using the EcoBalise tool, which we are going to talk about in the next slides. In January 2025, France, spearheading this initiative, notified the EU Commission with a draft decree, and it went into a 3-month review by the European Commission. In May 15, the European Commission approved this draft decree, and environmental cost labeling methodology received EC validation. So what's next is that voluntary display phase began for brands and retailers. So that means brands and retailers can start calculating their own score, and they can publish these through the public portal. And what's gonna come next is actually of great importance, because starting in April 2026, the mandatory compliance phase will start, and environmental cost labeling will become compulsory for all products that are for all textile products that are placed in the French markets. And another thing that I want to underline is that if you choose not to calculate EcoScore for your products, then third parties have a right to publish your scores. So that means during the voluntary phase, you will have actually time to calculate these, and and have a right to say what the score is before some other third party does. So the calculation method is mostly based on a European method, but there are also some specific indicators that are added, such as microplastics, and some category rules, such as penalties, that will be introduced. All assumptions or specific calculations are based on a database that is developed by ADAME. And there's a free EcoBalise tool that is going to be used to calculate the environmental cost of products, which also there's a link in the slide as well. And it will be using this database developed. And to give you a general overview of how environmental cost is calculated, then we have to look at some products specific parameters first, starting with the type of garment. Is it pants, t-shirt, etc.? And of course, the material type, such as cotton, linen, and polyester. And also the country of manufacture, which is used for calculating the, especially for green carbon emissions during the transportation. So from only this point, you can see the importance of traceability for your products, not just the country of origin, but also the type of materials and their volumes. So that means there is going to be a need for third-party verification for these. For the rest of the data points, the base Emprunter database will be used. So there are going to be some default values that is going to be gathered from this database, such as what would be the impact of 1 kilogram of cotton, or what would be the impact of 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. And the calculation methods, you can see it as like an enhanced version of PEF, the product environmental footprint. If you are following the updates recently, you already know that there are category rules that were introduced for textiles for product environmental footprint. But we have to keep in mind that PEF is not consumer facing. EcoScore is, so that's one of the major points. And how they calculate things are a little bit different as well. So PEF takes the number of uses in the life cycle of a product into calculation and use it as a unit, and that's another difference. And there are some additional rules, such as weighting rules and other indicators that are specific to French EcoScore. So at level 1, we already discussed the type of garments and the material used and the countries of origin where it's manufactured, including the different stages. But at the same time, there's going to be different data points that has to be selected in the EcoBalise tool for microfibers and microplastics. It also takes durability of garments into account, as well as the toxicity of the finishing process and end-of-life services at the same time. So footprint database powered by EcoInvent will be used as part of a partnership agreement. And if you are interested in the methodology that is used by the EcoBalise calculation tool, then there is a link to their documentation in the slide, so you can take a look at that. And I'd like to transition into eco-design for sustainable products regulation. And let's see what happened in the last few months. Just to give you a brief update, it's applicable to products placed on the EU market, so producers, importers, distributors, and authorized representatives are affected parties in here. ESPR is one of the tools to achieve the aims of 2020 Circular Economy Action Plan to transition to a circular, sustainable, and what is considered a competitive economy for EU. And it will be taking a look at some parameters for circularity, performance, recyclability, and durability to achieve that. So if you look at the blue tiles, you'll see some usual suspects, such as the recycled content, the environmental footprint of the product, and of course, water, energy use, it's already in there. And also substances of concern is part of that. The green tiles are related to the product quality itself. So is it reusable, reliable? Can it be repairable, durable? Is it durable? So mostly related to the design of the product itself. And the orange tiles are about the end of life part of the product. So is it possible to recycle it? Is there possible to recover it or remanufacture it? And we already covered some of the things the eco-design requirements have in the previous slide, but just to highlight a few among these, I like to say that the producers has to address the presence of substances if it is inhibiting circularity, and there's a aim to increase the recycled content, and the products must be easier to remanufacture or recycle. And there are some limitations on the carbon and environmental footprint and generation of waste. So when you talk about ESPR, we cannot pass on talking about digital product passport, which is accompanying this initiative, and it's at the heart of achieving this goal, because a digital product passport is designed to be a digital twin for the physical product itself. And according to the category of the products, the information that is planned to be included are such as technical performance, or what materials are used, their origins, how it can be repaired or recycled, and also the environmental impact. If you look at the timeline, in April 19, it was the first working plan was actually released for energy sector. The textile is yet to be released, as we can see for this timeline. Towards the end of this year, EU is expecting to deliver a harmonized standard for the DPP system. So that means we will all know what kind of infrastructure will be there and how all actors for digital product passports will act like. That means not only data providers, but also there's the data storage and other actors in play. And towards the end of, at the beginning of next year, EU is planning to release a delegated act. And as you know, when a delegated act is released, such as in this case for textiles, EU gives 18 months to comply. So that means the companies have to comply by July 2027. We said that at the end of 2025, the standardization of the system was going to be released. in the middle of 2026, EU will set up a digital registry, which is like a central repository or centralized storage for all DPP data. So it will be realized. And once it's done, the priority sectors, such as textile, iron, and steel, the rules will enter into force and will be mandated to have a compliant digital product passport. And there's also a new update about the destruction of unsold products. Just as a reminder, as part of ESPR, there's a ban on the destruction of unsold textiles and footwear. Means large and medium-sized company on an annual basis, they have to submit a report on the number and the volume of products they discard and the reason for doing so, and they have to publicly declare it on their website. At the end of last June, EU issued a draft regulation, and in that they give the details of the provisions for the destruction of unsold consumer products, apparel and footwear among them. And in August 11, just 2 days ago, the feedback period for this draft regulation has ended. So that means in the next few months, we're expecting another regulation to be released by EU. And the last item in our agenda is California Senate Bill 343, which is spearheaded by the CalRecycle, the California Recycling Initiative by the government. And the subtitle is that clock starts ticking when it comes to the updates. So what is Senate Bill 343? It is known as Truth in Recycling or Truth in Labeling law, and it wants to prevent misleading the consumers about whether a product can be recycled or not. And it will hold the manufacturers, distributors, and retailers responsible for that. At the heart of this Senate bill, there's the responsible or regulated use of recycling symbols, such as the chasing arrow or any other similar indicator on recyclability. So that means the regulation is saying that there has to be certain criteria that has to be met for the recyclability. And that was a provision there when the final findings report, which I'm going to talk about, is released. There's going to be an 18-month period for packaging product and packaging manufacturers to comply with this regulation. So October 4, 2026 is the date. So anything that is manufactured before that is not subject to restrictions. Doesn't matter where it's sold. Lastly, there has to be the items that are going to be recyclable should be regularly collected and processed for recycling in the state of California. If you don't want to be restricted as a manufacturer. So what's new is that the final findings report was published in April 4, 2025, which is about the methodology to determine if a product is recyclable or not, which started the clock for 18 months. That means, as we told you before, this bill is going to be enforced for products manufactured on or after October 4, 2026. So these are all the updates that we want to go over today. So I thank you very much for all our participants. On the left-hand side, you will see a webinar feedback survey that you can access by QR code right now, or later on, you can use the webinar feedback link underneath it. it will just take 1 minute of your time, and you can provide valuable feedback about how you perceive this webinar and what your suggestions for our future webinars. And as I said at the beginning of this webinar, the slides and video recording will be shared with all registered participants, and we encourage you to contact us at info@usbcertification.com for any questions or feedback that you might have. So thank you very much.